Hey, thanks for stopping by. My name is Tyler, and today I want to talk about why you should be using infrastructure as code when you're studying for your cloud certifications. Whether it be an AWS cert, an Azure cert, or a Google Cloud Provider cert, or any of our other wonderful public clouds out there. Let's get into it. So, the first thing I want to talk about is cost. I don't know about you guys, but I have absolutely forgotten to turn things off in the console before. Once upon a time, when I was first dipping my feet in the AWS pool, I guess, I left the Lightsail instance running for a very long time because I just turned it on and forgot about it. And then the end of the month hit, and I owed Amazon $300. So that's just one of my examples, but I've also forgotten to leave just little things like T2 micros and just stuff in the cloud because I'm not perfect. Sometimes you build a lab in the console and you think you remember to turn everything off, but maybe you have an EC2 instance in another region that you just forget about. Infrastructure as code can help a lot with this because you build up your stack, your project, your lab, whatever you're doing, and then when you're done, when it's time to turn it off, maybe you completed the lab or maybe you just need to take a break, you just run your destroy command and boom, it's all done. Your whole project is torn down, you know it was done correctly, and nothing is lingering, costing you money. So that's kind of the first thing, is forgetting to turn things off in the cloud. I hope I'm not the only one that does it, but infrastructure as code has definitely helped me get better about it. It just makes it so much easier. And then along with just forgetting to turn things off, especially when you're first starting, let's talk about setup time. So say you're building a really big project. You have load balancers and a Route 53 zone and A records and routing policies and all of this stuff you're building. Maybe a bunch of databases too. Maybe firewalls. That's a lot to build, and it can take a good 20, 30, 40 minutes to build all of that up. And depending on what order you do things, that setup time can also apply to how much you're being charged for your cloud infrastructure. And it might not seem like much if it's just a few T2 micros. It's not a crazy amount of money. But if you're labbing every single day and having that 40 minutes of stuff turned on that maybe it doesn't need to be, it can add up to maybe $1 or $2. Once again, it's not a crazy amount because we don't have these big production environments, but it can definitely accumulate still, even if it is small projects. And infrastructure as code fixes this problem too, because you spend a whole bunch of time writing for me it's Terraform. I love Terraform. I have not touched CloudFormation that much. Messed with it a little bit back in high school, but not a crazy amount. But I spend a bunch of time building my Terraform script, troubleshooting the script, making sure it works. And then when I'm ready to demo my project, maybe it's a web server and I just want to click around on my web server, I just say Terraform apply and it builds everything. And then in 3 minutes it's done. I get to go play around with my project, have fun, look at the infrastructure. And then when I'm done, you just say Terraform destroy and it's gone. Just up and down very, very quickly. And the setup time of actually having to have resources running is much, much lower than if you were to manually build it with the console. So those are two of the big things I have with cost. Obviously, the more you're building, the more extreme these examples become. But let's move on to the next thing, which is going to be scale. Now, this is probably my favorite benefit of using things like Terraform or CloudFormation, because you can have these really big and fancy and just built out cloud projects. Like I have one that I've been working on for a while now. It's a few thousand lines of Terraform and it sets up, I think it's over 200 services in AWS. It's a lot. I won't go through it now, but maybe I'll make a video on it shortly because I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little proud of myself for that project. It's pretty cool. But what I'm trying to say is you can build these huge projects with things like Terraform because you don't have to worry about either leaving things running and running up costs or restarting every time you want to work on a lab. Because if you want to build a project that consists of over 200 services in the AWS cloud with just using the console, that's a lot of time. Odds are you're not going to be building that in one sitting. So your options are either leave it on and incur a bunch of costs, or you tear it all down and then you have to restart when you want to continue to work on that project. Another example of this is, say you spent some time building a Route 53 routing policy and it goes to a few load balancers across the world. And maybe behind those load balancers there's a website where you can navigate to even more load balancers behind that load balancer. That's awesome. If you built it with the console, you would probably tear it down pretty quick after you start it because that's a lot of compute and it can run you up some money in the cloud. But then maybe the next day you say, wait a second, this isn't secure. I want to add a web application firewall to this whole crazy infrastructure I built. Well, you have to rebuild all of your infrastructure to have that finished product where it's all of these web servers with firewalls in place. Whereas if you had the same project built in Terraform, maybe you spend the first day building all your load balancers and EC2 instances and your Route 53 routing policies in Terraform. And the first day you say Terraform apply, it sets it up, wonderful, you got your cool project, you get to enjoy it for a bit, and then you're done and you say Terraform destroy, and it shuts it all down for the night. And then you wake up the next morning and you say, let's put some firewalls in. Well, lucky for you, all you have to do is add those WAF resource blocks to your Terraform script or your CloudFormation stack, whichever one you're using for AWS, and you can just add it to your infrastructure without building all of the rest of the infrastructure around those components you want to add. So it just makes these really big projects possible without so much work to set the same thing up over and over and over day after day to just build your project bigger. So I absolutely wanted to mention that because for me, I love big projects. I love big labs. I think it's super fun to go into Lucidchart and build this crazy diagram of everything that's going on. And the only way that's feasible for me is with Terraform or CloudFormation if I wanted to use that. So that's all I have for scale, but let's also move on to kind of how it helps you actually study for your certifications. So when you're studying for your certifications, you're going to want to get some hands-on experience, naturally, whether it be Amazon, Azure, Google Cloud, you're going to want to do some labs. And at least for Amazon, I have to speak on Amazon because it's a cloud provider I know the most about. I have done Azure classes and I have done Google Cloud classes, but I know Amazon by far the best out of all of those three. And when you're clicking around in the console, it kind of does a lot for you. It really simplifies things. If you don't specify something, most of the time it will just kind of fill in a default. I mean, even things like if you're setting up a CloudWatch alarm, it will just build the SNS topic for you to notify you. You don't even have to really know what SNS is. You just see a prompt to put your email in. And that's wonderful. When you're first starting out in the cloud, you don't want to be confused. So I would say for the foundational level exams, it's totally okay to just use the console. However, when you move on to the associate level exams, I think it's super useful to maybe dip your feet into some infrastructure as code tools because, I guess tying it back to the CloudWatch example, Terraform doesn't know to set up that SNS topic. It's not going to suggest that for you. You have to manually put in the resource block and give it this SNS topic to send these messages to, whether it's an email address or phone number, whatever it is. Hi, it's Tyler from editing this video. I already know what you guys are saying. Your topic is not your email address and phone number. Those would be your SNS subscribers, which are subscribed to your topic, which actually distributes your messages to your subscribers. I feel like I should correct myself because I did not word that correctly, but enjoy the rest of the video. And that's just kind of one example. There's a whole bunch of examples of kind of that same pattern. I guess another one is IAM. When you're assigning groups and users policies in the AWS console, you can say attach policies and it brings you to this awesome web page with a search bar for your policies. Maybe you want EC2 admin access and you just click the policy and you say add. You don't have to really know what it's doing. You click the policy, or maybe database super user. You just click the policy and it just gets added. And that's, once again, awesome for a lot of cases. But I think you can learn a lot more when you're using things like infrastructure as code, because when you go to set up a IAM policy for Amazon and Terraform, you actually have to type out the JSON to build that policy. It doesn't really let you select these defaults. So by forcing you to do that, and by forcing you to build some of this stuff a little bit more manually the first time, once again, it's very easily repeatable after that. But by forcing you to type in stuff manually, it can really help you get a good grasp on how some of these things work. So that's just one of the things I wanted to go over. I think it's super helpful for kind of building a deeper understanding for some of these services, just because it holds your hand a little bit less. Yes, Terraform will, for some things, give it default values. I think for EC2 instances, you can not specify a subnet and it will just assign it to the default, which that's cool. I kind of like that some of that stuff exists, but for a lot of things you have to really know what you're trying to build before you build it. So that's pretty much all I had for you guys this week. Wanted to go over why I like using infrastructure as code so much for my studies and why maybe you should too. Thank you guys for watching. Obviously, I hope you subscribe. I am always posting content. If you have questions, comments, concerns, new certifications, if you got a certification, tell me. I love to hear about them. I do respond to every single comment I get as well, so I'll be lurking in there. But thank you guys for watching. Enjoy the rest of your week.